to Cody Talks NFL, presented by Blitzalytics.com. And here's your host, Cody Manning.
And welcome into the Monday edition of Cody Talks NFL. I hope you guys enjoyed your long holiday weekend. Ate all the bunch of leftovers like I did. I know I still got a little bit of leftover that I'm going to finish off tonight. So hope you guys enjoyed your food, all the football, and just time with your family. And if you did some shopping, hopefully you checked out Blitzalytics.com store section and you bought something from us too. I'm going to go ahead and get today's episode. Got a few little nuggets that came out over the weekend. And then other than that, I'm going to preview tonight's game between the Vikings and Seahawks, go through a quick recap of yesterday's game, and get you guys out of here so you can enjoy your Monday. A couple news items. Actually, they're both related to the Texans. The Texans don't intend to actually sign a new GM this offseason for their 2020 season. Don't really trust that. As we all know, we kind of been harsh on Bill O'Brien about the moves that have been made, but hey, look at it. It's actually paying off for them. They're sitting at an 8-4 record. They beat the Patriots last night, which I'll talk about later in the episode. And honestly, the more you think about it, it somewhat makes sense why they want to get a GM, just because what high-quality GM would want to take that job knowing that they don't have a first-round pick this year? Actually, I don't think they will pick until like the third or fourth round, maybe the second round this year. So they don't have a lot of picks over the next coming years, so it makes sense why they're not going to maybe sign one, because they probably couldn't get a quality GM. They would probably have to settle for like the last available one, if that makes sense. So it somewhat makes sense, but I'm still questioning it, because who knows, if they don't win the Super Bowl this year, he could even make more drastic moves that could potentially jeopardize Houston's future. So promising news came out yesterday from Ian Rappaport. The Texans are actually saving their last IR spot for a return for J.J. Watt. It is possible that he could return for the NFL playoffs. He'd be 3 months removed from his torn pectoral injury. He obviously wouldn't be 100% J.J. Watt, but I'm sure if he's able to return, that would give that defense some type of boost, even if it's just a moral boost and the energy boost to play better. And then maybe he can make some plays around here and there. So if they get J.J. Watt back for the playoffs, that's definitely going to help their chances to maybe go on a deep playoff run. So that'll be something to monitor. If that happens, I believe it does have to happen before the playoffs. So it'll probably happen around week 17, the last week of the NFL season. And then a last little note, just so people know, with a scheduling change, this is when we start seeing some games get flexed around. It did last night that the NFL for Week 15 is actually going to flex the Bills and Steelers game into the Sunday night matchup. The original Sunday night matchup was the Vikings and Chargers. Obviously, with the Chargers having a down year, it makes no sense for them to keep that matchup in that time slot. So that matchup got moved to a 4:05 start time. So at least they didn't move them to like a noon start time, and maybe they can start balancing out these games between the noon games and the afternoon games. Now I'm going to go ahead and get into previewing tonight's game. As far as the injuries heading into the matchup on the Vikings front, Adam Thielen is already ruled out. Ben Gideon's also ruled out with a concussion. Jalen Holmes has been ruled out. It's not injury related, so it might be something personal. And then Linval Joseph is questionable with a knee injury. Harrison Smith is questionable with a hamstring injury. Anthony Harris is questionable with a groin injury. And Shamar Stephen is questionable with a knee injury. On the Seahawks front, Nick Bellore is doubtful with his quadriceps injury. Nico Thorpe is doubtful with a groin injury. Luke Wilson's questionable with a hamstring injury. Al Woods is questionable with an ankle injury. Jadeveon Clowney is questionable with a core injury. Jerron Reed is questionable with an ankle injury. And Michael Kendricks is questionable with a hamstring injury. As far as how this game is going to go, I think it should be a good game. I mean, you're talking about two NFL NFC playoff teams that are going to be fighting for positioning in the NFC playoffs. I mean, the Vikings, they have to keep up with the Packers right now so they can have a chance to win the NFC North. So they're going to want to win this game because if anybody listened to last week's Monday episode, I went through the last part of the schedule for everybody, and the only tough matchup the Packers got for the rest of the season is the Vikings. So the Vikings want to win the NFC North. They got to win every single game outside their Packers matchup and then take care of business then. And then same thing with the Seahawks. With the 49ers dropping that game to the Ravens yesterday, the Seahawks win this game, they're going to replace them as the NFC West leader, and the 49ers could drop down to the 5th seed by the end of the night. So the Seahawks definitely have something to play for, not only to win the NFC West, but also to maybe potentially be the number 1 seed in the NFC. So a lot is on the line tonight. It's going to be a lot hard for the Vikings to win this game without Thielen, but we saw them go into Dallas and handle business. Now, I'm very interested to see how this team does play. This is kind of another game that they need to get off their backs as far as a monkey off their backs, because they already got off the prime time on the road against a good team no one say good team, but against a winning team with a winning record in Dallas. But the Vikings actually struggle with the games in the outdoors. So if they're going to want to win the NFC playoffs, they're going to have to win these outdoor games. So this is something they need to prove that they can perform in. But as far as who's going to win the game, it's going to be close. I think it's going to come down to the end. I'm going to lean towards Seahawks just because they are at home. It's so hard to play at CenturyLink Field. It's such a loud stadium. Russell Wilson's still playing at the MVP type level. I think this will come down to who has the ball last. It's going to come down to a field goal. Like I said, because the Seahawks are at home, I'm going to lean their way. I could see them winning like a 27-24 type win, but I could see the Vikings sneaking out on a last-second field goal as well. But I'm taking the Seahawks because they got the MVP candidate in Russell Wilson, and they are at home. So I got the Seahawks winning by a field goal tonight. I'm going to go ahead and get through the recapping. As far as like the teams that played on Thanksgiving, no news came out for like the Falcons, Saints, Cowboys, Bills, or the Bears. But over the weekend, Lions did place Jeff Driscoll on IR. So the quarterback that we saw on Thanksgiving, David Blau, will probably be their starter for the remainder of the season. They have not yet put Matthew Stafford on IR, but again, why would they rush him back unless he's 100% healthy? I'm sure Stafford wants to play football even if the team's out of the playoffs at the end of the year, but it's probably better to protect your franchise quarterback that you're going to be paying around $30 billion next year. So I kind of see it makes sense that David Blau will probably be the starter for the Lions for the rest of the season. Then I'm going to go ahead and get into yesterday's games. I'm going to start with the Titans and Colts matchup. Titans actually handled business on the road. They won 31-17. Some injuries coming out of the matchup on the Titans front. Dory Jackson left with a knee injury, and Daron Bates left with a shoulder injury. Colts, Chester Rogers left with a knee injury, and Kenny Moore left with an ankle injury. Titans just handled business on this game. Colts are just way too limited on their offense right now. They have no T.Y. Hilton, no Marlon Mack, no Eric Ebron, and that showed yesterday. They lost Chester Rogers. They had a comfortable lead, but they blew it. Titans were able to make some plays and come back. Special teams, they blocked that field goal and returned it for the touchdown and basically won the game for the Titans. So as far as how I feel on the teams, I'll start with the Titans since they won. Titans are sitting at a 7-5 record. They are currently sitting right outside the playoff picture. They have the same record as the Steelers, but right now the Steelers have the tie advantage over them. So they're going to not only going to be watching how the Steelers perform throughout the rest of the season, but also the Texans, because they do have a chance to win the AFC South, and they have 2 matchups against the Texans. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out for them. I mean, I don't know. They got something special going on with Derrick Henry running the ball. Tannehill played all right yesterday. He did make some mistakes, but at the end of the day, he did help them find a way to get to a victory. I still, though, feel like they're going to finish because they at the end of the day, 3 of the last 4 games are against the Texans twice, and they also have to play the Saints. So I still feel like they're going to finish with like a 9-7, 8-8 record. Maybe they squeeze in as a wild card. I kind of feel like after last night, the AFC South is the Texans division at this point. As far as the Colts, they're sitting at a 6-6 record. They're still technically within the playoff reach, but I just think as good as the defense is playing, the special teams has been horrible for them. as a whole. And then on top of that, they just don't have no skill position players that can take them over the top. They need more playmakers on that offense. Jacoby Brissett, as solid as a quarterback as he is, at the end of the day, he's not a quarterback that can win you games on his own. He's just that solid, like, top 20 quarterback. He's not a top 10 quarterback. So if you're going to be missing guys like T.Y. Hilton and Marlon Mack and Eric Ebron, it's just going to limit his ability to help his team find ways to win games. So unless those guys, I know Eric Ebron's done, but unless Marlon Mack and T.Y. Hilton return this week to help them go on a 4-game run and possibly sneak in as a wild card, it's hard for me to believe in the Colts right now to get it done and sneak into the playoffs. They're probably going to finish with maybe a 9-7 record, maybe 8-8, but it's going to be dependent on when Marlon Mack and if T.Y. Hilton does return anytime soon. Going into the next game, the Bengals and the Jets. The Bengals found a way to win. They beat the Jets 22-6. Jets are now sitting at a 4-8 record. Bengals are sitting at a 1-11 record. As far as no news or injuries on the Bengals front, with the Jets, Arthur Mallett, I think I said that right. He did suffer an ankle injury for the Jets yesterday. Yeah, I mean, Bengals just, I don't know, this came out to play, and the Jets laid an egg. Just to say it simple. I mean, they didn't score a touchdown against the Bengals. Like, that's all I need to say. Like, everybody knows the Bengals defense has been terrible this year. Jets offense has been rolling, and they couldn't even find the end zone against the Bengals. Like, this is more on Adam Gase, probably more than the team. At the end of the day, Bengals found a way to win, and they kind of won with some other bad teams winning yesterday. They still have a stronghold on that number 1 pick for the upcoming NFL draft. So Bengals, Zach Taylor found a way to win. I'm not going to read into it too much. Got to give credit, though. They won. They're 1-11. Maybe they can win maybe 1 or 2 more games, but they'll probably finish 1-15 or maybe 2-14. Maybe. And then the Jets are sitting at 4-8. They went back to how they played in the middle of the season. Have no high expectations for them to finish strong. I thought maybe it was possible with how things were looking for them, but now they're probably going to finish with a 5-11, maybe 6-10 record. Going on to the next game, Washington and Carolina, a little bit of an upset here. The Redskins beat the Panthers 29-21. Redskins are now sitting at a 3-9 record. Here's a kind of funny thing about the Redskins. The Redskins, out of the last 2 weeks, every single NFC East team has lost. They're 0-6. The Redskins are 2-0. The Redskins don't have a shot at the wild card, but technically the Redskins could still win the NFC East. That's how bad the NFC East is right now. As far as injuries coming out of this matchup on the Redskins front, Trey Quinn did suffer a concussion for the Redskins. Morgan Moses suffered a back injury, and then Montez Sweat suffered a quad injury. On the Panthers front, Greg Olsen did suffer a concussion. As far as how I feel on those teams, I'll start with the Redskins. I mean, hey, they're coming along. They just won back-to-back games. I'm not saying they're about to finish the season strong and, carry that momentum into next season, but Darius Geis looked healthy. He looked explosive. They have a nice little 1-2 punch with him and AP on that offense right now. I wouldn't say he's the guy or anything because I was never a believer in him, but there was moments whenever I got a chance to watch and tune into the Redskins game that I was actually impressed by some of the throws Dwayne Haskins was making. So you got to like that you're seeing some type of growth from him as a quarterback. But yeah, they just found a way to win. They're sitting at a 3-9 record. I got to give them credit. I thought they would do much for the rest of the season after finding a way to win last week. So they're sitting at a 3-9 record. I can still see them finishing like 3-13. Maybe they can win another game or 2 just because of how bad the NFC East is. So I can maybe see them getting up to a 5-11 record. But I think more likely it's going to be a 3-13, 4-12 type record for the Redskins. As far as the Panthers, Kyle Allen has completely came down to earth. There were some very questionable decisions he was making yesterday, and they're just making that decision to move on from Cam Newton even harder at this point because barring them maybe getting a veteran quarterback coming in, they're probably going to hold on to Cam until maybe the draft, and then maybe if they surprise everybody and they draft one of these quarterbacks in the draft, then they move on from him. Other than that, I can honestly see the Panthers entering the 2020 season with a competition between Cam Newton and Kyle Allen to see who's the starting quarterback for that year. They're sitting at a 5-7 record. Their playoff shots are pretty much done. So at this point, all I guess they could care about is maybe helping Christian McCaffrey break some records, and that could be the promising thing coming from the Panthers side. Other than that, Ron Rivera's hot seat is getting hotter by the moment, and if he continues to lose to teams like the Redskins for the rest of this year, I would not be surprised if by the end of the year, Ron Rivera is fired on Black Monday. I'm going to go ahead and move into the next game, which should have been on the later time slot because those later games were outside the Chargers and Broncos games were pretty much duds, and so you could take a nap too. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and get into this. Ravens found a way to win in the windy, cold conditions on Justin Tucker final second field goal. It was a great game. They won 20-17. Ravens are now 10-2. 49ers are now sitting at a 10-2 record. No news or injuries on the Ravens front. With the 49ers, Jaquiski Tart did leave with a rib injury, and then DJ Jones did leave with an ankle injury. So a couple key injuries to their defense. So we'll see if those guys are able to come back and help this team finish strong for the rest of the season. I mean, this game turned out to what we all thought it was going to be, a really good game. Because of the weather, it kept the scoring down, and it came down to who had the ball last. And Lamar Jackson found a way to get his team in position to kick that field goal and walk away with the victory. Start with the winning team. Ravens are now sitting 10-2 after last night's game with the Patriots and Texans, with the Patriots dropping it. Ravens are now the number 1 seed in the AFC, and they basically control their fate. They went out the rest of the season. They'll have the number 1 seed as long as they have the same record as the Patriots. So Ravens have a great chance to go to the Super Bowl. Maybe they drop another game or two. I could see them finishing with a 14-2 record, but I could see it. They're probably going to finish with anything between 11-5 is probably their floor record right now. That's them basically falling on their face for 3 out of the 4 games. And actually, I'll let me state correctly. Their floor record is probably like a 12-4 record, but they could finish as high as 14-2. I can see that happening. With the Niners, though, they're sitting at a 10-2 record. They got a tough matchup against the Saints coming up. They got to play the Seahawks down the road. I mean, their number 1 seed could completely fall apart, especially if the Seahawks win tonight, like I talked about. And also, they're a wild card team. So it'll be interesting to see how the 49ers finish for the rest of the season. I mean, they're still a threat, though. I mean, I talked about in last week's Monday episode when I was talking about the NFC. I mean, basically any of these NFC teams outside the NFC East could win the conference this year. But if the 49ers want to get that job done, it's pretty clear they're going to want to be at home for the NFC. So they just got to handle business in the upcoming week. I mean, yeah, they lost, but they're sitting at a 10-2 record. Again, they're a team that could probably finish anywhere between like 11. I can see them finishing between 11-5 and a 13-3 record to finish their season. I'm gonna go ahead and get into the next game. Tampa Bay traveled out to Jacksonville to face the Jaguars, and the Bucs won 28-11. As far as injuries for the Bucs, Jamel Dean did leave with a shoulder injury. And then with the Jaguars, DJ Hayden did leave with a neck injury. Bucs now are sitting at a 5-7 record. It's they have very slim chances of sneaking in as a wild card. So basically at this point, they're evaluating their team. They're definitely a competitive team. They're probably going to try to finish the season strong. Actually, based on their history, the Bucs kind of are weird. Where underneath the Jameis Winston area, where they play pretty well in December when they're out of the playoffs, and then they just give their fans hope, and then they kind of come out the next year on the dud. So I don't know. They're sitting at a 5-7 record. I mean, I could definitely see underneath Bruce Arians, I could see them finishing with a 9-7 record and just giving a bunch of momentum heading into next season. But more than likely, they're probably going to finish between I'd say 7-9, maybe an 8-8 record. And then with the Jaguars, Jaguars are sitting at a 4-8 record. That team is completely fallen apart. They did bench Nick Foles for Gardner Minshew yesterday. Foles had like 3 straight turnovers to start the game. That's something I'll cover into the offseason if they should move on from him or not. But Marone did not commit to Gardner Minshew being a starter for this next week. So that's something to monitor as we head into the week. Obviously, if Gardner's named a starter, I'll have an update for you on Friday's episode. But Gardner did, I mean, he kind of got them in the touchdown, but then he ended up like fumbling the ball away late in the game and ruining their chances of a comeback. So I don't know what the right decision will be for them going forward. They're just a team that's bad, and it's another coaching change that's probably going to happen. I actually thought about this yesterday. I could see Ron Rivera coaching the Jaguars in 2020. Totally could see that happening. But yeah, I think they're destined to probably finish. I mean, they're probably going to. I mean, with how bad that team is playing right now on both sides of the ball, they're probably going to finish like with a 4-12 record. Maybe they win another game or two and go to 5-11. Maybe, and maybe that's if Minshew starts and he gives the team a jolt. But I have no expectations for them to win another game for the rest of the season. Heading into the next game, then Steelers and Browns. No news or injuries came out for either team. Maybe besides Hurdy goes on the Cleveland side of the ball. But yeah, other than that, Steelers beat them 20-13. Steelers are sitting at a 7-5 record. Browns are sitting at a 5-7 record. I'll start with the winning team. I mean, they just handled their business. That defense forced turnovers when they needed them to force turnovers. Duck Hodges has a connection with James Washington. They were able to move the ball, if not mostly throughout the game, but when they needed it, he was able to get the job done. He's definitely a lot better than Mason Rudolph. But yeah, they're sitting at a 7-5 record. They're sitting there at the 6th seed right now. And as much as I was doubting them on the last few weeks, I just don't know if I could doubt the Steelers anymore. They would. Rob asked if they would be contending with Big Ben. Yeah, they'd be contending with Big Ben just because he's a lot better than Duck Hodges. Maybe Juju would have had a better year and they would have even won more games earlier in the year. Possibly. We'll see. I mean, you never know. But yeah, I mean, yeah, so they I would say they would be contending with Big Ben. I mean, they're probably going to make the playoffs, I feel like, because I don't know. Now that I'm on them, they'll probably lose games. But I had this thought yesterday with the Steelers. The Steelers, to me, right now, are, I don't want to say they'll do what the Eagles did a couple years ago, but when, for example, for me, with the Eagles, when Carson Wentz went down with that injury a couple years ago and Nick Foles took over, it was literally every week I'm like, oh, this is the week the Eagles are going to fall apart. And they won. Oh, this is the week the Eagles are going to fall apart, and they won. And I continue to do that in the playoffs. Like, oh, this is the week they're going to fall apart. That's what the Steelers have been to me the last few weeks. I'm like, oh, this is the week they're going to show who they really are. Oh, this is the week they're going to show who they really are. And they just keep on finding ways to win. And to be honest, if the Steelers do make the playoffs, even at a 8-8, 9-7 record, and they're in there as a 6th seed, I don't know how I can't deny that Mike Tomlin is not the coach of the year. I mean, he is coaching the hell out of this roster for how banged up it is on the offense side of the ball. As far as the Browns, though, they're sitting at a 5-7 record. I know I'm starting to give Freddie Kitchens some credit trying to turn around the season, but I mean, come on. If you can't beat the Steelers with how bad they are on offense, I know you're missing Myles Garrett on your defense, but I mean, come on. They just cannot get the job done. They're sitting at a 5-7 record. Maybe they can win 2 or 3 more games, but to me at this point, they're going to be like a 6-10, maybe a 7-9 type of record. I know they have an easy schedule to finish it, but I just can't trust them. I mean, you can't beat no offense, Duck Hodges. You're getting the job done, but you can't beat a Duck Hodges, James Washington, and Benny Snell led offense. Like that's on the Browns. So no expectations for the Browns. I thought maybe they would have a shot to sneak in as a wild card, but it seems like the Steelers are going to try to hold on to that spot. But They definitely will. Let me say this: they will have competition from the Titans for that spot, or the Texans too, because like I talked about earlier, the Titans do have a chance to win the AFC South still. I'm gonna go ahead and get into the next game. The Packers are traveling out to New York. They did travel out to New York to face the Giants, and they completely handled business. They won 31-13. Packers are sitting at a 9-3 record. Giants are sitting at a 2-10 record. For the Packers, Tyler Lancaster did leave with a neck injury. The Giants front, Corey Ballantyne, did leave with a concussion. Start with the winning team like I've been doing. Packers sitting at a 9-3 record. Basically, like I talked about when I was previewing tonight's matchup, Packers basically kind of control their own fate. The only tough game they have left is the Vikings. So as long as they can beat these teams like the Giants that they have in this over this next month, they should be able to handle their business and put themselves in position not to only win the NFC North, but they should also have a chance to maybe get a first-round bye if things do fall their way with the other NFC teams. So Packers have a position; they're basically locked into the playoffs. To be honest, like I said, the only game I could see them dropping at the remainder of the season is the Vikings. So the Packers could finish as great as a 13-3 record, and honestly, their floor is probably a 12-4 record, barring them falling on their face against one of the bad teams they got to finish their season out against. The Giants, they're 2-10. It sounds like Pat Shurmur's on his way out of the Giants. I know some people aren't high on Shurmur. Again, like this is why like I'm kind of hesitant on like maybe firing Freddie Kitchens, but he kind of seems over in his head. But I just kind of wish coaches had 3 years to prove themselves. But it seems like after the second year, Pat Shurmur might be on his way out. They kind of need as good as Daniel Jones has flashed, they do need to work on cutting down his turnovers, especially with fumbling the ball. That's something he needs to work on the offseason. Right now, they're sitting at a 2-10 record with how bad they've been playing over this losing streak they're on. I can see them finishing with a 2-14 record. Maybe they win a game or two here and there, and they finish with a 3-13, maybe a 4-12 record. As of right now, though, I'm sure their fan base doesn't want to lose much more games because they want to be in position to get Chase Young in the draft. But yeah, no expectations really for the Giants for the rest of the season. Now going into the last game of the noon games, the Eagles and the Dolphins. I cannot believe this turned out like this, but the Dolphins upset the Eagles 37-31. No news for the Eagles or injuries on the Dolphin side. Kalen Ballage did leave with a leg injury, and then Jerome Baker did hurt his chest in that game. Dolphins, man, they're sitting at a 3-9 record. Brian Flores has that team play hard for him, which is why when I answered Rob's question from the Friday episode is why I wouldn't mind taking control of this roster just because he can get these, I guess, mediocre players play hard for him. And just imagine if you get some great players for him on that roster. And also, too, if you guys did not watch the highlights from this game, if the one highlight from this game did not hit your feed at all on social media, please go check out that. I don't know if you want – it's not necessarily a fake field goal attempt, but at one point the punter flipped punter/holder, wherever you want to call him on that play. He flipped the ball on a fake field goal attempt to the kicker for a touchdown to take a lead, or extend the lead. I don't remember exactly what the score was, but it was one of the coolest plays I've seen happen on a, I guess, unique play call that you don't typically see every Sunday. Really cool if you haven't checked out that. I just gotta give Brian Flores. And here's the thing with the Dolphins, like, I could definitely see them finishing 3-13, but underneath Brian Flores, with how he has that team playing for him, they better watch out, and they might win another game or two, right? I would have to check out their schedule. But yeah, Dolphins found a way to win. They're sitting at a 3-9 record. Could see them finishing 5-11. I really could, just because of how the team plays underneath him. As far as the Eagles, as bad as the NFC East is at 5-7, they somehow still have a shot to win the NFC East and make the playoffs, which is very sad. But I don't see that happening. I mean, when you're losing to the Dolphins, when you have an opportunity to tie the Cowboys and get yourself in a great position to get on a run and go to the playoffs, and you lay an egg against a team, a very lesser talented team in Miami, I just can't believe in you. I mean, maybe they sneak out the NFC East, maybe, but I could also see this team finishing with a 6-10 record, 7-9 record. But at the end of the day, a 7-9 record might get you in the playoffs from the NFC East. But even if the Eagles somehow get in and over the Cowboys, I have no expectations for them to do much for the rest of the season. I'll go ahead and get into the next game. The Rams completely manhandled the Cardinals. They won 34-7. No news or injuries came out for either team. I'll start with the Rams. They're sitting at a 7-5 record. They're just basically a team that should be able to handle their business against these mediocre to bad teams, which they did show against the Cardinals. So they're sitting at 7-5. They still technically have a shot for the playoffs. I'm sure they wish they were in the NFC East right now. They're going to have to hope either like the Seahawks, Niners, or the Vikings or Packers. One of those four teams just fall on their face over the next 4 weeks and start losing a string of games while they start winning a string of games, and they can maybe sneak in as a wild card. They're probably going to finish anywhere with between like a 9-7. I could see them getting up to maybe a 10-6, maybe 11. I'll say maybe a 10-6 record probably is their ceiling at this point, but a 10-6 record might not get you in the playoffs this year. As sad as that is, when you might see a 8-8, 7-9, possibly 9-7 team out of the NFC East. But I mean, the Rams there's just basically over this next month, they're going to try to win games, evaluate the offensive line, try to get those young players on that offensive line to grow and start gelling. And this is definitely a team that could finish the season on a high note and just miss the playoffs because of how tough the NFC East is, and just take that momentum into next season, and they understand where they need to focus on improving during the offseason. Cardinals, though, I was a little disappointed in their effort, though, but I guess the Rams completely manhandled this team. They've won them Rams have beat them 5 straight times by 30-plus points. It's kind of ridiculous, but Cardinals 3-8-1. Kyler Murray had his absolute worst game as a pro. So, yeah, I mean, they'll probably maybe win a game or two over the rest of the season, but I mean, they're a team that could still be play spoiler alert because they do face some teams like the Steelers, and in the end, I think they got another AFC team that's going to be fighting for playoff positioning over the coming weeks. And then going into the next afternoon game, the Chargers and the Broncos. Broncos end up winning on a last-second field goal, 23-20 over the Chargers. No news or injuries on the Broncos front. With the Chargers, Jeremiah Atachu, I believe that's how you say his name. He left with a lower leg injury, and then Ron Leary left with a concussion. Actually, that's one of the Broncos. I put that on the wrong side. So those are Broncos injuries. Chargers had no news or injuries. But as far as this game, I'll say this. While he kind of fell off after a very strong start, Drew Lock was somewhat impressive in his first start. Again, I'll take this from Jack Bourgeois when he talked about Daniel Jones earlier in the season. Sometimes it's hard to game plan for rookie quarterbacks in their first start just because you don't know what to expect. You can look at their college film, but sometimes doesn't necessarily translate to what you're going to see on an NFL Sunday, if that makes sense. So, yeah, I mean, he came out. Him and Courtland Sutton were able to connect on a couple touchdowns, kind of fell off, but at the end of the day, he found a way to lead his team to victory in a tough divisional matchup. As I'll start with them, though, 4-8. They're just a team that's going to evaluate, see what they have left, see what areas they want to improve on their roster. If Drew Lock can, continue to show this type of play every week, it will make their offseason a little bit easier on the quarterback room. Maybe they bring in somebody to compete with them. I could see them maybe sticking with a veteran backup for Drew Lock and just head into next season with Drew Lock as a starter. So who knows if they address the quarterback position in the offseason. Still, like I said, we'll see. The jury's still out on Drew Lock, but at the end of the day, he did find a way to lead his team to victory. And it seems like the team actually, from what I've read into reports and everything, the teammates of the Broncos, I guess he's got that type of character players can rally behind, and they really like. And as far as the Chargers, though, 4-8, completely disappointment. I mean, a lot of it's been injuries, but as much as injuries it's been, Phillip Rivers just looks done to me. I mean, I know people have, kind of talked about, maybe he goes to a team like the Titans because that's where he's from. I know that was rumored a couple of weeks ago. Maybe he goes somewhere else to play football. But if I was a GM, I don't even know if I would want Phillip Rivers on my team because I'm telling you, he's looked that bad this season. And I don't know if he's a guy that's going to be willing to be a bridge type quarterback for you. Maybe if you draft one of these developmental quarterbacks in the upcoming draft class. So Chargers just have a lot of interesting decisions to make this offseason because they're going to have to completely retool that roster at this point. Because at one point they were a Super Bowl contender with the roster, but now they have to look at the quarterback position and reevaluate other areas on the roster over the coming weeks. Both teams are probably going to finish I can see both teams finishing anywhere between a 5-11 record up to maybe a 7-9 type of record. Heading into the next matchup, Kansas City and the Chiefs. Chiefs completely manhandled the Raiders. They won 40-9. No news or injuries on the Raiders front. As far as the Chiefs, Darrell Williams left with a hamstring injury. Frank Clark did leave with a shoulder injury, so those are a couple notable injuries. And then Rashad Benton also left with a hamstring injury. Chiefs are sitting at an 8-4 record. Basically, with yesterday's performance, they have basically wrapped up the AFC East. Have they technically won it? No, but you might as well crown the Chiefs the AFC West champs at this point. So their main focus will be on trying to win out these last 4 games. Which includes against the Patriots in the coming week, and hope the Patriots not only drop the game against them, but drop a couple other games. And then obviously they'll be watching the Texans and they'll be watching the Ravens, and they're going to hope that they can maybe get the first round bye. And then keep in mind, they beat the Ravens earlier this season. So if the Ravens drop a couple games, they can maybe somehow get home field advantage. That is still possible. So I think the Chiefs' focus right now is just winning out these games over the month of December and then try to get that first round bye. Raiders are sitting at 6-6, and while they've been fun, I think it's come all those injuries and the fact that they were playing with so many rookies has finally catched up to them. I think maybe those rookies are hitting what is known as the rookie wall, and they're coming back down to earth. They're sitting at a 6-6 record. Could they finish 8-8? I mean, that's what I predicted them as finishing. So I could definitely still see them finishing at an 8-8 record, maybe a 7-9 record. But either way, that's a win. I mean, their rookies played great for them. I mean, there was no expectations for the Raiders to go to the playoffs this year. So the fact that they started the month of December off in the playoff picture, and they're still technically within the playoff picture. They're still technically a team in the hunt, but they're probably going to miss off in the playoffs, but they still got some promising things they can take into next year. And then I'm going to go ahead and look at last night's game. The Texans did beat the Patriots last night. They won 28-22. The score is a lot closer than what it was. The Texans kind of just handled their business all night, and then the Patriots kind of scored a couple times in the fourth quarter and make the score closer than what it was. As far as injuries and everything, the Patriots, Ted Karras, suffered a knee injury. It came out, I saw right before I started recording the show, that he's more likely has an MCL sprain, and the MRI will confirm that. So another injury to their offensive line. The Texans over the weekend, this was prior to the game, they actually placed their first-round pick, Titus Howard, on IR. And then Taiwan Jones did suffer a hamstring injury for them last night. Start with the winning team. The Texans are sitting at an 8-4 record. Basically, they're a team that controls their own destiny. As long as they can continue to win these games throughout the rest of the year, they should win the AFC South. Like I mentioned earlier, I know the Titans got 2 matchups coming up against them, but I still feel like this is the Texans' division to lose at this point with how they're playing on the offensive side of the ball. Defense is actually somewhat coming along with their hodgepodge of cornerbacks that they collected over the season. Former first-round picks are actually somewhat playing well for them. So, yeah, they're a team that now they got to keep in mind. The Texans, they got a victory over the Patriots now, so they're going to want to see those Patriots drop a couple games. They're just like the Chiefs, right? They're going to want to win out these last 4 games and hope that the Patriots and maybe they don't have the tiebreaker against the Ravens, so they're going to really need the Ravens to fall flat on their face. But they're going to be watching the Patriots, watching the Chiefs to see if they could have a chance to maybe get the first round bye, and then probably pray the Ravens fall flat on their face, and maybe they can get the home field advantage. But Texans basically control their own destiny to win the South and host a playoff game and maybe get a first round bye. As far as the Patriots, though, they're still sitting at a 10-2 record. They could still get a first-round bye. They can still get the home field advantage if the Ravens drop a game or two. So it'll be interesting to see, but if anything we learned last night, the Patriots are a beatable team. If their defense can't ball out and save the day, that offense has too many question marks. Tom Brady was missing some throws last night. I know that's something we've been monitoring against, but again, with the Patriots, I'll say this, even though they lost last night, they're still the Patriots. They're still a team that, okay, all of a sudden it's January football and everything clicks and they go on the playoff run and make the Super Bowl. So until the clock hits 0 and the Patriots are losing a playoff game, that's what I'll probably finally accept, that the Patriots are done this year. But they just don't look like the Patriots of old, and they are definitely a beatable team, and they better watch out, because if they lose to the Chiefs this weekend and the Bills somehow beat the Ravens on Sunday, they could still lose the AFC East, which would be interesting to watch. A lot of really good and important and playoff implication type matchups are going on this next Sunday. Can't wait for it. And of course, check out Friday's episode. I'll go into a preview of every game and who I think will win. And it's that time of the year. It's basically playoff football. And speaking of playoff implications, we got a good, all right Thursday night. I guess all right teams Thursday night, but a lot is on the line. Dallas is traveling out to Chicago to face the Bears. Both teams are sitting at a 6-6 record. Bears have to basically win every single game and hope teams drop games to possibly sneak in as a wild card. Dallas could probably still lose this game and still somehow win the NFC East, which is ridiculous, and get in the playoffs. But as far as how this game's going to go, I mean, I want to say Dallas handles their business. I mean, they're coming off an embarrassing loss on primetime Thanksgiving TV to the Bills, going against a Mitchell Trubisky-led team that I know he kind of looked better on last week on Thanksgiving, but I'm still not buying into all of a sudden the Bears are back resurgence type thing that their fans are talking about right now. Yes, I just called you out, John Stocco, Blitzalytics. But, yeah, I think Dallas handles business. I think the Bears will kind of come back down to earth. Yeah, I think Dallas wins. And I don't know what the score will be, but I think they will win. And Rob just wanted me to check this out. I guess he found this on Twitter. This is how bad the NFC East is, and how the 3-9 Redskins can make the playoffs. If the Cowboys lose out and they finish with a 6-10 record, and if the Eagles finish these last 4 games with a 1-3 record, with their only win being over Dallas, and they finish 6-10, and the Redskins win out and finish 7-9, they can make the playoffs, which actually I'm kind of here for this. Let's go Redskins. Let's go Bill Callahan and Haskins. Let's see if this can happen. That'll be kind of funny to see that all work out. But yeah, I'm going to get into the I'm glad you found that, Rob. That's pretty interesting. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and get into Rob's producer question. There are a bunch of teams that could have a new quarterback next season. Would you, as a scout, prefer to target a quarterback in this draft, or roll the dice on one of the number of veteran quarterbacks and hoping it works out? And if it doesn't, draft a quarterback next year. Is there a surprise team that could have a new quarterback for 2020? I guess I see with this quarterback class, I definitely need to dive into it more. But as of right now, I kind of feel like Joe Burrow's like the only guy that you could like draft, and he can be a immediate quarterback that can help your team win. It's just unfortunately that he'll probably be going to the Bengals. He's like that type of quarterback where a team like I don't know, like maybe the Raiders, maybe like the my Colts, for example. Um, like a team that's built to win now, where he could take him to the next level. He's just not going to be going to the right spot. Obviously, with Tua's hip injury, that puts his season in doubt for next year. So, I mean, those are like the two quarterbacks I wouldn't mind drafting this year. I'm really not convinced on any of the other quarterbacks. I think any of the other quarterbacks, like a possible Jordan Love, who might actually be a graduate transfer now, he might not enter this draft. Jacob Eason. I'm not a Herbert guy at all. So like, if you draft Herbert, good luck with that, in my opinion. So like those guys, like, even if you draft him, I feel like he's like a developmental guy. You'd want to roll with a veteran. I don't know. I think if you're a team that's built to win and you can't get Joe Burrow, yeah, you probably want to roll the dice and go get a veteran quarterback and see if they can help you go on a playoff run next year. And then maybe you get like a later round quarterback. I mean, I kind of would actually, the more I think about it, I probably would if I can't get a Joe Burrow, if I can't get a Tua for the future, I probably would roll the dice on a veteran, because if the veteran actually falls flat on your face, you'll probably be in position to get a Trevor Lawrence or a Justin Fields in the next draft class. I.e. the Colts. Like if Jacoby Brissett falls flat on his face next year, kind of like how he's done in the last month, maybe my Colts can be lucky once again and get Trevor Lawrence. Now that's me dreaming over here. Um, to finish his last question, though, is there a surprise team that could have a new quarterback for 2020? Yeah, the Chargers, like he put in there, Rob put in there, the Chargers could. I definitely think the Raiders could. I mean, if anything showed yesterday, if Derek Carr is not a quarterback that's going to win you a lot of games. So, like, any of these teams that have quarterbacks that are good enough to maybe manage the game but not take your team over the top, yeah. I know you put the Patriots in there. I just don't know if the Patriots will be in position to draft one of these quarterbacks. Like, yeah, they're looking like a down year, but they're still going to be picking in the 20s. So I don't know, unless they make a surprise trade, which Belichick's not really known for doing, maybe. But yeah, I mean, it's just going to be maybe the Panthers too. Um, yeah, it'll be interesting to watch. I got to see the draft positioning. I think one team that could be a surprise too, because I talked about with his contract, like he wouldn't be the starter, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Lions pull a trigger on a quarterback with Matthew Stafford's injury history now. Yeah, I can't wait to watch, and that's something I'll be talking about. When we're in the off season, I'll probably be covering a lot of the draft heavily on this show, especially once we get past the free agency part of the year and everything's fully focused on the draft. And I'll be going to like the Senior Bowl and Combine. So if anybody's been following me for a long time, they know I'm a heavy draft guy too. And I'll be fully investing into this class as soon as this season wraps up. And then, yeah, if you guys like what you heard, please hit the like button on here. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't subscribed yet. If you haven't subscribed to our Blitzalytics podcast network, please subscribe to that. We're on 11 different podcast platforms. We have like the Pick Six, the XFL files, which will be ramping up as the XFL season gets closer. The staple show of our podcast network, the Blitz Breakdown. And then also, too, we got the Fantasy Football Hot Seat. It's me and who helps me produce this, Rob. We talk about everything fantasy football. We're only in our last few weeks of the show that's going to be around, at least until maybe the free agency part of the year. If you need some help winning these playoff games that are coming out, tune into us. Even if you haven't listened to us this year, it will probably help you win a game or two or maybe win that championship. And then other than that, guys, if you have anything to give, I know it's still going on. They're to try to raise money for the All Heart Charity League. Please go check it out at blitzalytics.com/allheart. There's 10 different teams that represent 10 different charities for 10 different great causes. Also, too, it's Cyber Monday, guys. If you want to help out a small business like us, please go to blitzalytics.com. hit the store button. There's tons of Blitzalytics apparel. Not only there's a ton of Blitzalytics apparel, Rob has tons of different great artwork on there and other different types of T-shirts that you can check out. Great stocking stuffers for Christmas this upcoming Christmas. So please go check that out. And like I said, if you guys like what you heard, like, subscribe, reach out to me. My handle's at Cody Talks NFL. Other than that, I hope you guys enjoy this Monday. I'll see you Friday. Enjoy your work week. Blitz out.
Thank you for watching Cody Talks NFL, presented by Blitzalytics.com. As always, hit that like and subscribe button, and then hit that bell notification icon to stay up to date on all things football.